Watching the India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. The Indian election campaign reaches its last lap. 57 seats, including Varanasi, the seat of India's Prime Minister Modi, go to the polls on the 1st of June. South Africa voted in the most pivotal election since the racist system of apartheid ended in 1994. Opinion polls suggest ANC may lose polls for the first time in 30 years. British Parliament dissolved as 5-week campaign period begins leading up to the general election on the 4th of July. No respite from heat wave as North India, including capital Delhi, sizzles with record mercury levels. Well, on to the details now. In an exclusive interview to Open Magazine, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi articulated his perspectives on matters of policy, politics and people's welfare. In the interview, the PM articulated that over the past decade, his government's decisions, proactive approach and future-ready form of governance have played instrumental roles in harnessing the true potential of the Indian economy. On Viksit Bharat, or a vision for developed India, PM Modi emphasized that his government's vision for a Viksit Bharat isn't inward-looking. Rather, it entails fostering greater collaborations, forging stronger partnerships and driving global growth. On poverty alleviation, PM Modi stated that in the last 10 years, his government successfully pulled 25 million people out of poverty. PM Modi also criticized the opposition's Congress party, asserting that the party, which has governed the nation for several decades, lacks a genuine ideology beyond family first. PM Modi also talked about the roadmap for the future and said it will encompass a 4E approach. 4E includes education, entrepreneurship, employment and emerging sectors. PM Modi hailed the Mudra Yojana and Startup India, stating that these schemes have set a strong platform for India's youth. And now let's get to the latest on the world's largest election in India. Well, India is all set to vote for the 7th and the final phase of general elections. 57 constituencies across 8 states and union territories will vote on the 1st of June. Fate of 904 candidates will be decided in this phase. 13 seats each in Uttar Pradesh and Punjab, 9 in West Bengal, 8 in Bihar, 6 in Odisha, 4 in Himachal Pradesh, 3 in Jharkhand and 1 seat in the union territory of Chandigarh will go to the polls in the 7th phase. Meanwhile, today is the last day of campaigning for the final phase of Lok Sabha elections that will take place on the 1st of June. Senior BJP leader and Prime Minister Narendra Modi is to address rally in Hoshiarpur in Punjab. Another BJP leader and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will hold rally in Kushinagar in Uttar Pradesh. BJP President JP Nadda will be in the North Indian state of Punjab holding multiple rallies in Amritsar, Faridkot and Roopnagar. Top leaders of opposition parties are also making a last-ditch attempt to woo the voters in their favour. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi will be on the campaign trail holding rallies in the Eastern Indian state of Odisha and North Indian state of Punjab. Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi will be on a campaign trail in the northern Indian state of Himachal Pradesh holding a road show in Solan. Samajwadi Party chief Akhilesh Yadav will be holding public rally in Maharajganj in Uttar Pradesh. Well, Team Poll Pulse has reached Varanasi, the city of temples and knowledge in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh in India. As the city goes to polls in the 7th phase, Sakal Bhatt tracks the pulse of the people. Here's a report.
mighty river Ganga, tracking the pulse of the pole-bound Banaras. Varanasi or Kashi, one of the oldest living cities in the world. Varanasi is one of the most prestigious seats that is going to be polled on 1st of June. This is one constituency that has seen a massive transformation from the symbol of faith to massive development. Think of Banaras or Kashi or Varanasi, the first thing or the foremost thing that would come to your mind are the famous, beautiful, picturesque ghats of Banaras. Banaras के घाट वाराणसी की शान है.
अब घाट क्या था, क्या से क्या बन गया, नमो घाट नहीं था, नमो घाट नया बन गया.
काफी बदलाव आया है 2014 के बाद, काफी बदलाव आया है. जो 2014 के पहले नहीं था वो अब 2014 के काफी लोग सुधार आ गया है. यहाँ पे भी पूरे भारत में आ गया है सुधार.
Political heat is hotting up in Varanasi and so are the temperatures. Team Pulse reporting from Kashi Vishwanath corridor, which has not only garnered tremendous national attention, especially when it comes to spiritual tourism, when it comes to pilgrimage, but also international tourists as well.
2 साल में काफ़ी चेंज हुआ, 3 साल में काफ़ी चेंज हुआ है, बहुत अच्छा हो गया. आने वाले टाइम में अब उससे भी अच्छा हो जाएगा.
चुनाव में वोट करना बहुत ज़रूरी है. मैं वाराणसी की जनता से ये कहना चाहूँगी कि हर कोई व्यक्ति घर से निकल करके वोट करे.
बहुत से बदलाव हुई हैं, पब्लिक के लिए सुविधा हुआ है, सड़क बनी है, हर कार्य अंदर कॉरिडोर बनी है, अब उतना भीड़ नहीं लगता है, अंदर बहुत सुविधा हुआ है.
बहुत प्रभाव पड़ा है, पहले से बहुत बढ़िया चल रहा है, सब कुछ सही है.
People here are openly talking about the big change on ground, especially when it comes to the development. With camera person Murli, this is Sakal Bhatt reporting from Banaras for DD India.
Varanasi, a city renowned for its rich cultural heritage and spiritual significance. With polling day nearing, Sakal Bhatt engages with students at Banaras in the university to understand their political views. Take a look.
Once celebrated English author Mark Twain said about Banaras that Banaras is older than history, Banaras is older than tradition, Banaras is older than legend, and Banaras is older than all of them twice put together. It is very, very famous for Banarasi textiles, Banarasi saris, and anyone who comes to Banaras has to do some shopping of Banarasi saris. Banaras is also known for its Banarasi pan.
I'm going to relish this meetha pan also to beat the heat of Banaras here. It's extreme heat wave conditions, and as I enjoy my pan, let's also talk to the Panditji here, who is the owner. वोट करना कितना जरूरी है?
वो तो अपना नैतिक अधिकार है और उसको जो तुम जरूरी है जो तुम वोट करना हर व्यक्ति को करना चाहिए.
Poll Pulse has reached here in world famous BHU, यानी कि Banaras Hindu University. Adding more to the heritage and the legacy is this very, very old Shiva temple. Since time immemorial, they say, Prachin Mandir inside the campus of world famous Banaras Hindu University.
यहाँ लोग स्पिरिचुअल से भी यहाँ जुड़े हुए लोग हैं और यहाँ मंदिर है. यहाँ लोग भावनाओं से यूनिवर्सिटी के जुड़े रहते हैं. तो यहाँ कह सकते हैं ये सर्व विद्या की राजधानी होते हुए आध्यात्मिक नगरी भी है. यहाँ से आध्यात्म भी निकलता है और यहाँ से लोग पूरे भारतवर्ष को संदेश देते हैं आध्यात्म का.
BHU में क्या चल रहा है आजकल?
जब किसी भी देश में या किसी भी शहर में जब पर्यटन बढ़ेगा तो वहाँ के जो लोग रहने वाले हैं उनका भी विकास होता है।
2014 के बाद लगातार विकास हुए हैं, चाहे आप यहाँ शहर के चारों तरफ पूरा सर्कल वाइज रिंग रोड का निर्माण कराया गया है और यहाँ से जाने के लिए जितने भी मशहूर जो भी बड़े शहर हैं वहाँ जाने के लिए डायरेक्ट हाईवे की सड़कें बनवाई गई हैं। अपने काशी में हमने देखा कि कैंसर का अस्पताल बना।
In the last one decade, Kashi or Varanasi has seen tremendous change in terms of development, and particularly the tourist footfall, the economic parameters have increased multifold. With camera person Murli, this is Sakal Bhatt reporting from Banaras Hindu University in Kashi for DD India.
And for more on elections, Deepika joins us from Varanasi and Akshay Dhongre joins us from Kullu. Good morning to both of you. Deepika, my first question to you. As the final campaigning draws to a close today evening, all eyes are on Varanasi, which BJP claims has had a golden decade with PM Modi. Can you give us an overall of the mood there?
Good morning, Lipakshi. We are right now at Assi Ghat, which is a very famous spot in Varanasi, and not only it is famous for its rich cultural heritage and beauty, but it is also famous for the frequent visits of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who says that Ganga, which is right behind me, he considers Ganga as his mother, and he says that he is the son of Varanasi. He is the son of Ganga, and that is why Ganga Ma has chosen Prime Minister Narendra Modi to contest from this particular seat. Now, if we talk about, because we are just few hours away from the silent period, the voting will take place on the 1st of June. The battle here is directly between, there are other candidates in fray, but if we talk about the important key candidates, it is Prime Minister Narendra Modi versus Congress's Ajay Rai. Now, interestingly, this is a very interesting fight because Ajay Rai has been a former BJP member, Karyakarta of RSS, so a party worker of RSS, but then he switched to Congress, and since 2019 he's been trying his luck. Now, what Congress claims is that this time they can change the entire permutation and combination of election, because many of them are expecting that it's going to be a clean sweep for Prime Minister Narendra Modi, but Congress has a different version of it. They say that in the rural areas of Varanasi, when we talk about it, the rural people, the villagers are more in favor of Congress, whereas when we talk to the ministers and other leaders of BJP here who are arriving on a continuous note to visit this place and create more election awareness, to hold public rallies, all the BJP leaders have to say that not only Varanasi, BJP is super confident that they are going to cross the 400 seat mark this time in this particular election. So we are just few hours away from the silence period, and just few hours are left for the people to witness rallies and public addresses by the leaders of both the parties and all the parties, and after that all the voters would have ample of time to think when we look at a transformational journey and decide what they want in the next 5 years, Lipakshi.
All right. Akshay, I wanted to know 4 constituencies go to polls in Himachal Pradesh along with 6 seats of by-election there. How important are they? And also a last day of campaigning today. So tell us about the last-ditch efforts to the voters.
Well, Lipakshi, as you have already mentioned, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra is already holding rallies in Solan. In fact, we also have senior BJP leaders who are right now in the state who are campaigning extensively for the 4 candidates by the Bharatiya Janata Party for all the 4 constituencies, and not just that, for the 6 by-elections in the Legislative Assembly, all the 6 candidates are also campaigning from the Bharatiya Janata Party side. Now, very interestingly, these 6 BJP candidates who are contesting for by-elections were Congress MLAs before they chose to vote against the party whip for the upper house election, for the Rajya Sabha elections, which led the Congress party to disqualify them, and then they joined the BJP, and all 6 of them are contesting from BJP seats. Now, if we talk about the last day of campaigning, it's quite extensive because of the fact that not only these 4 constituencies depend on the election that's going to take place on 1st of June, but also also the fate of the government in Himachal Pradesh, because at this point of time we see that the Sukhvinder Singh Sukhu government of the Congress party is just at 50% mark with 34 out of 68 seats, and if the BJP manages to get us all the 6 seats, they will also be in a position to challenge the Congress party with equal number of seats. That may in fact lead to some instability, to a massive instability in the Himachal Pradesh government that is being led by the Congress party right now. So interesting, quite interesting these elections, because not only the 4 parliamentary constituencies depend on it, but all the 6 by-election constituencies also depend on it. And for that same reason, all the political parties have sent their best, or rather the biggest star campaigners, including Yogi Adityanath, the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, is going to be campaigning here in Himachal today. We have Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, as I already mentioned, is campaigning as well. So that's quite interesting to see that how on the last day of campaigning, what is going to be the poll pitch for all of these political parties and the star campaigners to ensure a victory, not just in the parliamentary elections, but also in a bid to save and to the government in Himachal Pradesh from the Congress side, and to topple the government from the BJP side. Back to you.
All right, an important day today. Thank you so much, Akshay and Deepika, for all that information from there. And moving on, the process of granting citizenship certificates under the Citizenship Rules 2024 has commenced in the state of West Bengal, where the first set of applications from the state were granted citizenship by the Impart Committee in West Bengal. Similarly, the Impart Committees of the states of Haryana and Uttarakhand have also granted citizenship to the first set of applicants in their respective states under the Citizenship Amendment Rules 2024. The first set of citizenship certificates were handed over to the applicants in New Delhi by the Union Home Secretary on the 15th of May 2024. The Government of India had notified the Citizenship Rules 2024 on 11th of March 2024. The rules envisage the manner of application form, procedure for processing applications by district level committee, and scrutiny and grant of citizenship by state level Impart Committee. The processing of applications is done completely through the online portal. In pursuance of these rules, applications have been received from persons belonging to Hindu, Sikh, Jain, Buddhist, Parsi and Christian communities from Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan who have entered into India up to the 31st December 2014 on account of persecution on grounds of religion or fear of such persecution. Well, according to the defense sources, India is set to formally start the cost negotiations with a French delegation on 30th of May for the procurement of 26 Rafale marine aircraft that will operate from its 2 aircraft carriers. The approximate cost of the 26 naval Rafale jets is expected to be about 40,000 to 50,000 crore Indian rupees, dependent on the negotiations between the Indian and French sides. This will include the cost of the aircraft besides missiles and maintenance of the aircraft. According to the sources, the Indian side has invited the French side for the negotiation process, and first round of talks, the French side will include Defence Ministry and industry partners including Dassault Aviation and Thales. And still to come on DD India News Hour. North Korea fired what appeared to be about 10 short-range ballistic missiles off its east coast. US President Joe Biden began a new push in Philadelphia to court black voters as he attacked his Republican opponent. US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is in Prague for a NATO foreign ministers meeting.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and moving on, new rules outlined by China's Coast Guard that could result in the detention of foreigners in the West Philippine Sea should not cause any concern, a Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman said. After Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said the rules were an escalation and worrisome. China, which has maritime sovereignty, disputes with the Philippines and other countries, issued new rules effective from 15th of June that would enforce a 2021 Coast Guard law and order detention of foreigners suspected of trespassing. The Philippines will use any point of contact with China to stop aggressive actions and allow Filipino fishermen to fish in the South China Sea, Marcos told reporters during a state visit to Brunei. And in some breaking news, 14 Hong Kong democracy leaders convicted as biggest national security trial concludes 1,240 days after their arrest. And Laura Westbrook now joins us from Hong Kong for more. Well, Laura, tell us more on the situation in Hong Kong. We've heard that 14 Hong Kong democracy leaders have been convicted.
Yes, that's right. We've just had the ruling from court just in the last few minutes. 14 of the accused have been found guilty. These include former lawmakers Helena Wong, and 2 have been acquitted. That has just taken place, and these are known as the Hong Kong 47. They were accused of conspiracy to commit subversion, which was took place in 2020 for this unofficial primary that went ahead in that year. Beijing and the government warned the lawmakers and people who took part in this primary at the time that this could contravene the national security law that Beijing imposed in 2020. That unofficial primary went ahead, and 47 people were arrested. This trial has been a very long-running trial. This verdict's come in 6 months after the trial finished. Many of the people who were in trial have been remanded in custody for almost 3 years. So we've just had that breaking news that 14 have been found guilty and 2 have been acquitted.
All right. Also, if I may ask you about the Philippine-China Coast Guard issue, Philippines President calls the new China Coast Guard rules worrisome. Do you see this leading to escalation of tension in the already very troubled zone?
Yes, this has just come in the Philippines President Marcos has outlined these new rules on Wednesday, and he called them worrisome. He says that they could result in the detention of foreigners in the South China Sea, and that this new policy threatening to detain our citizens is an escalation of the situation. He says the Philippines will use any point of contact with China to stop aggressive actions. China claims almost all of the South China Sea, and for its part, it says that this standardizes law enforcement, and there is no need for any individuals or entity to worry as long as there is no illegal behavior. But really, this is an escalation of the situation. We have seen a more assertive Philippines under President Marcos, with the backing of the United States, as well as Beijing with its actions in the South China Sea. It's increased patrols in the South China Sea, and there have been increased clashes between the Philippines and Beijing coast guards that have grown more frequent and more tense in recent months. So this could see those clashes grow. The worry is that this could be another further escalation, and that these increasingly combative clashes between these two sides could escalate even into something bigger.
All right, Laura, thank you so much for that information from there. And moving on, North Korea fired what appeared to be about 10 short-range ballistic missiles off its east coast. South Korea's military said in a statement that the suspected missiles were fired from the Sunan area near its capital, Pyongyang. South Korea is sharing North Korean missile-related information with the US and Japanese officials, it added in the statement. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said North Korea had launched a ballistic missile that apparently landed outside Japan's exclusive economic zone. The launch came after North Korea failed on Monday at its attempt to put a second spy satellite into orbit when a newly developed rocket engine exploded in the flight. After the failure, leader Kim Jong-un pledged never to give up space reconnaissance projects. And at a meeting of United Nations on Gaza conflict, Deputy U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Robert Wood, said Israel has a right to defend itself against Hamas, and it must do more to protect Palestinian civilians in Gaza and should remove all barriers to the flow of aid.
As we have said before, Israel has a right to defend itself against Hamas, but Israel also has obligations to protect civilians. The fact that Hamas's leaders and fighters hide among civilians does not lessen the requirement for Israel to conduct its operations in accordance with international humanitarian law. Israel must do more to protect innocent Palestinians in Gaza. We also have emphasized that Israel must connect its military operations to a political strategy that can ensure the lasting defeat of Hamas, the release of all the hostages, and a better future for the Palestinian people. The continued pattern of significant civilian harm resulting from incidents like Sunday's airstrikes undermines Israel's strategic goals in Gaza.
And U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken urged Israel to come up with a post-war plan for Gaza and warned that the absence of it could trigger lawlessness, chaos, and a comeback by Hamas in the enclave.
And I think this underscores the imperative of having a plan for the day after, because in the absence of a plan for the day after, there won't be a day after. And this is where we need to go, and we need to get as quickly as possible. A plan for the day after that does not leave Israel responsible for Gaza, which it says it does not want to be, but if it is, it will simply have an enduring insurgency on its hands for as far as one can see into the future, or not.
And U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Prague for a NATO foreign ministers meeting. It comes amid ongoing concerns in the alliance about funding for Ukraine, particularly ahead of the upcoming U.S. election in which Republican candidate Donald Trump has signaled the U.S. will be expecting Europe to do more heavy lifting on military support if he wins his bid to retake the White House. DD India correspondent Trent Murray reports for more. Take a look.
Well, the foreign ministers of all 32 NATO allied countries are meeting in the Czech capital Prague for a two-day summit, and we are watching several key areas where we expect discussions to be dominated by. The first, of course, is Ukraine. There are several things happening on that front. First and foremost, funding. We know that trying to garner funding for Ukraine from Western allies, particularly the United States, has proved difficult. And so we do expect Jens Stoltenberg, the Secretary General of NATO, to continue to make that call to NATO allies to try and find $100 billion to give to Ukraine over the next 5 years, but very short on detail of who would pay what and when, but nevertheless, it will be a discussion point. The second point is whether Western weapons could be used for targets inside of Russia. We know this is a really contentious one. In fact, just here in Berlin in the past 48 hours, French President Emmanuel Macron said that in his view, Western weapons could be used on military sites inside of Russia if those sites were being used to target cities and towns in Ukraine. He even came armed with a map to try and back up his justification. Again, we expect that to be discussed. The future leadership of NATO also up for debate. We know Jens Stoltenberg is planning to leave the organisation's leadership role very shortly. Some suggestions that Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte could be the new leader, but he does have some competition from other parts of the alliance And let's not, of course, forget the situation in Gaza. We know Turkish Foreign Minister Fidan will be there. The situation in Israel, Gaza, not normally one NATO involves itself too much in, but given some of Foreign Minister Fidan's counterparts will be there, and given Turkey's strong stance against Israel's bombardment of the Strip, it would not be a surprise if he used the meeting to speak to the likes of Germany, the UK and France and others who are continuing to supply Israel with weapons. What we should say that is that this is an informal setting. We don't expect any major announcements, but nevertheless there is a lot to discuss, all leading up to what will be a much more major summit, a NATO leaders summit in Washington DC come July. Trent Murray for DD India, Berlin.
And as some Western politicians urge a green light for Ukraine to strike targets inside Russia with Western weapons, Moscow says this is fraught with consequences. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov called on the countries of the Global South not to participate in the Swiss conference on Ukraine on the 15th of June. In the meantime, Moscow launched a swarm of drones at 3 Ukrainian regions overnight, damaging energy infrastructure. Dasha Chernishova has more from Moscow.
It reminded on Wednesday that if Russia is struck with Western weapons, that will escalate the conflict. Earlier, Russian President Vladimir Putin warned of serious consequences and said Moscow was already provoked to create a buffer zone in the Kharkiv direction, as Russia's Belgorod region has been constantly shelled. In the meantime, Russian Ministry of Defense said it made more advances on the Kharkiv direction and hit a warehouse of unmanned boats, aviation equipment, a few warehouses in Ukraine, as well as an assembly shop for drones. And its naval forces destroyed 2 Ukrainian sea drones in the northwest part of the Black Sea as they were heading towards Crimea. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said the conflict in Ukraine is getting a global projection and urged the countries not to succumb to the US pressure and also not to participate in the peace conference on Ukraine that is due to be held in Switzerland next month. He said this conference's goal was not to consider the settlement of the conflict in Ukraine, but rather to work out an unacceptable ultimatum to Russia. In the meantime, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov said Wednesday that Belarus's involvement in Russia's tactical nuclear weapons drills does not violate the provisions of the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. Dasha Chernishova in Moscow, reporting for DD India.
And US President Joe Biden began a new push in Philadelphia on Wednesday to court black voters as he attacked his Republican opponent. Biden was accompanied by Vice President Kamala Harris for a campaign rally in Philadelphia. Biden told a cheering crowd at Garrard College, "We're gonna make Donald Trump a loser again." Black voters have historically turned out for Biden and Democrats and were a key reason he beat Trump in 2020. But polls show they could be less supportive as him this year as the pair face each other again on the 5th of November. Biden ran through a list of his policy achievements, including removing lead pipes, a diverse administration, the first black women Supreme Court justice, and pardons for people sentenced for marijuana's possession.
I promise to put racial equality at the center of everything I do, because I vowed I would have an administration that looked like America. Because you voted, we're invested more than ever in the black families and communities. A promise made and a promise kept. All progress, all freedom, all opportunities at risk. Trump is trying to make the country forget just how dark and unsettling things were when he was president. But we'll never forget. They're trying to erase black history. We're going to write black history because it's American history. It's American history.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world today. A rare moment at the front line when a Ukrainian soldier finds comfort in drawing about conflict. In his comics, the soldier illustrates daily life in the trenches of the border with Russia, fellow soldiers' fears and dreams. One of his recent drawings shows a Ukrainian soldier sitting at the Black Sea beach facing terror. Russians said the image represented his vision of Ukraine's victory in the conflict. Driven by his determination to set a record, Nepali Sherwa Dawa climbed the Mount Everest 3 times in 8 days. Dawa, who works as a guide with 7 summit treks, stood atop the world's tallest mountain. He completed the feat with the aid of supplemental oxygen. About 7,000 climbers have scaled the peak, many more than once. China will send 2 young giant pandas to Washington, the National Zoo, months after the zoo returned 3 of the bears amid heightened tensions between 2 global superpowers. Beijing presented 2 giant pandas as gifts to the U.S. in 1972 after President Richard Nixon's historic Cold War visit to the country. Disney offered a first glimpse of its upcoming sequel to the animated feature Moana. The announcement has generated excitement among fans who eagerly awaited the continuation of Moana's adventures since the original film's release in 2016. The sequel promises to explore new depths of the Pacific Island culture and mythology. The movie is set for release in cinemas on the 27th of November. With phones and cameras in hand, New Yorkers hoped for a second chance to snap a picture of Manhattan's sunset. Cloudy skies amuses hundreds that lined up on bridges and sidewalks for the yearly phenomena when the sun lines up with the Manhattan street grid. And still to come in DD India News Hour. After voting in South Africa yesterday, opinion polls suggest that the African National Congress could lose for the first time in 30 years. As Madagascar also holds parliamentary elections, ruling party hopes to retain their majority. And UK Parliament dissolved ahead of general elections.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, voting held in South Africa after the country voted in the most pivotal election since the racist system of apartheid ended in 1994. Opinion polls suggest that the African National Congress loses its majority for the first time in 30 years. In the 2019 general election, the ruling ANC got 57.5% of the vote. DD India's Isaac Lucando has more on this.
Voting concluded in South Africa's general election with few incidences of irregularities reported. The Economic Freedom Fighters, or EFF, expressed concern about voter roll machines failing in certain voting stations, leading to the use of a physical voter's roll. Officials of the South African Electoral Commission indicate that voter turnout may match or surpass the 66% seen in the 2019 election. Many voters at polling stations cited high unemployment, crime, frequent power blackouts, and corruption in the ANC as reasons for supporting opposition parties, though some were wary of change. Support for the ruling ANC has waned over the years due to these issues. As vote counting continues, South Africans eagerly await the final result that will dictate their future. If the ruling ANC falls short of 50%, it will need to make deals with smaller parties to govern. Analysts suggest this could lead to uncharted and potentially turbulent waters for the young democracy, which has been dominated by a single party until now. Complete election results are expected no later than the 2nd of June. Isaac Lucando in Johannesburg, reporting for DD India.
And people in Madagascar voted in the country's parliamentary elections on Wednesday, in which the ruling party hopes to retain its majority. The president of the Indian Ocean Island state, Andry Rajoelina, was re-elected late last year in elections with a low voter turnout and boycotted by the opposition. Rajulina's ruling Tanora Malagasy Vanona party is hoping to secure a majority in these elections as well. Last year's election period was being marred by weeks of protest by opposition party leaders and their supporters. Rajulina himself ascended to power in a 2009 coup, prompting an exodus of foreign investors from the country. And the UK's parliament has been dissolved ahead of the country's general election. DD India's Ori Barrett reports for more from London.
By law, Parliament has to be dissolved 25 working days before a general election, and this time around that is the 30th of May. Now, Parliament was prorogued towards the end of last week. What that means is effectively legislation going through the House of Commons ended at the end of last week, but MPs have continued in their posts, wrapping up any of their business. The dissolution of Parliament marks the point at which MPs stop being MPs. They cease to be in that position. Between now and the election, if they want to be re-elected as an MP, they are simply a candidate for that position like any other candidate. What it does mean, though, is that for the dozens of MPs not standing for re-election to their seats at this general election, they have stopped their jobs. They have ended being an MP for good. Government ministers remain in their posts as government ministers, but they do so also no longer as an MP. And what it means is that those MPs who do want to be re-elected start crisscrossing the country. Many of them have been doing so already, but it really marks a new phase in the campaign where no one is an MP. Anyone who wants to take up a seat in Westminster beyond July the 4th is a candidate for an election. As I say, the election campaign has really been well underway since Rishi Sunak called the vote for July the 4th, with political leaders moving around all over the country, making their case to the electorate, with key themes already emerging around the economy, around healthcare, around immigration, and around defence and security. Ollie Barrett in London reporting for DD India.
Well, the jury is set to enter a second day of deliberations in Donald Trump's hush money trial. It wrestled with a verdict for more than 4.5 hours on Wednesday. Mitch McCann reports for more.
To jurors for over an hour on Wednesday as he guided them on how to deliberate in this case. He spoke about definitions of words like intent and reasonable doubt. The jury then debated for 4.5 hours before the day ended. There was one particular moment of note during deliberations when jurors asked that they be read back certain information they had already received. The jurors sent two notes. One requested to rehear the judge's jury instructions, and another asked for them to be read back some testimony from two witnesses, Michael Cohen and David Pecker. Any rereading of instructions and testimony will happen in the coming hours. Donald Trump faces 34 charges of falsifying business documents and attempts to cover up hush money payments to the porn star Stormy Daniels. Trump denies being behind the scheme or having any part of it. Mitch McCann in New York reporting for DD India.
Well, India's capital is sizzling under a severe heat wave with temperatures breaching record-break highs. Elsewhere, too, temperatures are at record highs. Mihir Maikuri takes us through some of the readings and also reads us through the impacts of this heat wave.
Scorching heat is sizzling some parts of the world, with temperatures breaking all previous records. These occurrences coincide with our home planet experiencing its warmest period on record over the past 12 months. In India, multiple cities have recorded their highest maximum temperatures of the season. On Wednesday, temperatures in Delhi's Narela and Najafgarh weather offices reported extreme temperatures. The scenes at other key Indian cities were no different either. Varanasi sizzled at 46 degrees Celsius, Ludhiana at 45.4 degrees Celsius, Jaisalmer at 45 degrees Celsius, Jaipur at 45 degrees Celsius, Churu at 47.4 degrees Celsius, Sri Ganganagar at 46 degrees Celsius, Chandigarh at 46 degrees Celsius, Hisar at 47.6 degrees Celsius. The warm weather has had its negative impact on citizens in many parts of the country, including in Sheikhpura in the eastern Indian state of Bihar. But what is a heat wave? As per India's Met Office, a heat wave occurs when the temperature is 4.5 degrees C above the long-term average. Between 1961 and 2021, heat waves increased in India by about 2.5 days due to global warming. Now let's take a look at the impacts of heat wave. Climate change is causing heat waves to become longer, more frequent and more intense. Blistering temperatures threaten to break previous records. Rising temperatures are driven by increasing carbon dioxide emissions, greenhouse gases, and a growing El Nino event. New data from Copernicus Climate Change Service indicates April 2024 as the hottest April on record. April 2024 was 1.58 degrees Celsius warmer than the average temperatures in April compared to the pre-industrial period. Pakistan temperatures across 52 degrees Celsius in heat wave. In 2024, Africa experienced the second warmest February. South Sudan reported temperature of 41 degrees C on March 19, 2024. In Kenya, Garissa with 27.9 degrees C experienced the hottest night on record. Since March 17, 2024, Rio in Brazil has experienced its highest heat wave in a decade. On March 18, 2024, Rio sizzled with maximum temperatures of 42 degrees Celsius. To get rid of this situation, everyone can help limit climate change. From the way we travel to the electricity we use and the food we eat, we can make a difference. Mihir Maikuri's report for DD India.
And now some update. North India sizzles under a severe heat wave. Such conditions very likely to prevail in most parts of Punjab, Haryana, Chandigarh, Delhi, many parts of Uttar Pradesh, East Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan, some parts of West Madhya Pradesh, isolated pockets over Bihar, Jharkhand and Odisha. Heat wave conditions in isolated pockets over Jammu and Kashmir as well as Ladakh, Vidarbha, Chhattisgarh. Warm night conditions likely to prevail in isolated pockets over Punjab, Haryana, Chandigarh, Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Bihar, Jharkhand and Odisha. IMD has also issued an orange alert for the same. On the other hand, after a harsh and eventful summer, Kerala is all set to the southwest monsoon today, 2 days ahead of its normal onset. Southwest monsoon usually sets in over Kerala around June 1st and progresses northward in surges, covering the entire country around July 15th. The Indian Meteorological Department on Wednesday announced that the southwest monsoon will arrive in Kerala in the next 24 hours. And for more on the weather update, ED India correspondent Tapas Bhattacharya from Delhi and Ajay Joy joins us from Thiruvananthapuram. Well, good morning to both of you. Tapas, New Delhi records highest ever temperature as North India sizzles. What more have you heard from the IMD?
Well, there are a couple of things that I'd like to tell you. The first is that the intense heat wave that was currently prevalent over the northwest part of the country is expected to abate by today. In fact, IMD has said that with the advent of the western disturbance, the situation is expected to improve. And also there is a strong wind current that will come from the Arabian Sea that will also make things much better for Delhiites as well as for the people in the northwest part of the country. Now, there is the second and a very important part is that there is yesterday the Met Department has given a color-coded warning of red, and they have reduced it to orange for today. So we expect the temperature to come down, not drastically, but definitely there will be a reduction in the temperature as well as the condition, the heat wave condition that is prevalent. So that might not be as strong as it was earlier. There's another point, Mungeshpur, which is on the outskirts of the Delhi. Near Nevada, it's an automatic weather station that is there. It recorded 52.9 degrees Celsius. We spoke to IMD and they believe that there might be some sort of a glitch in the automatic weather station. There might be some sort of a problem with the system, or they also believe that it might also be a case of certain places in that area which made the system go a little more, that shows more than what it really is, because the nearby areas of Palam, and other areas. So, for instance, Jafarpur, Mungeshpur, these areas didn't show that much of heat intensity. Just to put it in perspective, Sabdarjung yesterday recorded 46.8 degrees Celsius, which is a departmental weather station.
Right.
Now, Sabdarjung is the weather station which generally marks what Delhi. If you talk about Delhi and Delhi weather, it's a Sabdarjung weather station that we generally take into consideration. Now, Palam also showed 47 degree. Lodi Road also had a 46.2 degrees Celsius. So all these 5 stations that have been managed manually and by the scientists of IMD, they showed 46 to 47, 48 at max. The Ayanagar showed 48.3 degrees Celsius, 46.8 degrees Celsius. So in that sense, the IMD scientists believe that there might be some sort of a glitch in that Mungeshpur area, because there are 16, 17, such automatic weather stations in Delhi state area. So only Mungeshpur showed this abnormal.
Some respite there. Some respite there, Tapas. Okay, Ajay, my second question to you: Southwest monsoon set to make an early onset in Kerala. How is the weather there right now?
Actually, yes, according to IMD, conditions are all favorable for the onset of monsoon today. So anytime we can receive their official declaration about the monsoon wind reaching Kerala coast. But yesterday too, even before the monsoon arrived, the whole rainy situation in Kerala still continued. As I told yesterday, orange alert was given in 7 districts. Means half of Kerala was under orange alert yesterday, and yesterday too, areas like Kalamassery, around Kochi, and maybe throughout the South Kerala received very heavy rain. And if I quote the example of Kalamassery, that particular location, the particular urban area, received rainfall of around 350, more than 350 millimeter in just a span of like 28 hours or something. Because in a very short span, a cloudburst kind of situation happened in this area, and its effects are crippling the normal lives there. Waterlogging, severe waterlogging could be seen. The low-lying areas were completely inundated there. Fire and rescue teams were pressed into action, and people were evacuated from those areas, and relief camps were opened throughout Kerala. 42 camps are in operation right now. Mind it, monsoon has not started so far. In Trivandrum also the situation was almost the same. Rainfall reached almost 100 millimeters yesterday, showing the normal life really out of the track. Into the commercial streets, the water logging, and the streets getting inundated. That phenomena was there for almost 2-3 hours, really impacting the city completely. The small tributaries, for example, Kiliar
So pre-monsoon showers already.
Yesterday.
Yes, Ajay. So pre-monsoon showers are already engulfing the city. Thank you so much, Tapas and Ajay, for all that information from there. And moving on, strong storms with damaging winds and hail continues to pummel Texas. Parked American Airlines plane get blown off, positioned by strong winds at Texas airport as storms continue to grip the region. Storms produced hail, rain and destructive winds, including gusts as high 153 kilometers per hour in Dallas-Fort Worth and surrounding areas. Weather authorities predict extreme weather to persist in central Texas. Also, modern weather. The floods have rattled agricultural markets as they disrupted harvesting crops in Brazil. Flood-battered farmers wade through lost harvest farms in southern Brazil as heavy flood destroyed the fertility of crops. However, the record-breaking floods, intensified by climate change, have started to recede after displacing 500,000 people and killing more than 160. The full extent of the losses is still coming into focus, especially in rural areas where farmers produce much of Brazil's rice, wheat and dairy. Also, a stream of lava continued to flow throughout night from an Iceland volcano which erupted on Wednesday. Iceland has marked its 5th eruption since December and the most powerful one in the last 3 years. The lava fountains reached 50 meters high and the length of the fissure around 3.4 kilometers. The authorities warns of the risk of renewed volcanic activity in the area just south of the capital, Reykjavik, as studies showed magma accumulated underground. And President of the United Arab Emirates, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, arrived in Beijing on Wednesday on a state visit. Sheikh Mohammed is paying a state visit to China from 29th of May to 31st of May at the invitation of Chinese President Xi Jinping. During the visit, he will also attend the opening ceremony of the 10th Ministerial Conference of the China-Arab States Cooperation Forum. Sheikh Mohammed visited China 5 times after he became the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, namely in August 2009, March 2012, December 2015, July 2019 and February 2022. And on your screen, we are giving you the live shots of the summit which is going on in there. And a Chilean mother met with President Gabriel Boric after achieving her goal to raise $3.5 million to treat her son and get government support for rare illnesses. The son of Camila Gomez was diagnosed with Duchenne muscular dystrophy in 2023. DMD is a progressive life-limiting condition. It causes all the muscles in the body to weaken gradually. The Ministry of Health said the government would support Gomez with a waiver to pay for the taxes levying the donations, adding they would promote a rare illness law and have reached an agreement with the pharmacy industry to treat spinal muscular atrophy. And you're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for some sports news. Spanish club Barcelona have appointed former German national team and Bayern Munich manager Hansi Flick as their new head coach on a 2-year contract on Wednesday. Flick, who has not managed the club since being sacked by Germany in September 2023, will be tasked with reviving Barcelona's fortunes after the Catalan side failed to win any trophies this season under Xavi Hernandez, who was dismissed on Friday. The German filling Xavi's shoes faces a tough challenge ahead with fixing Barca's on-field struggles amid turmoil of the pitch, including deepening financial problems and a refereeing scandal that could drag on for years. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.